Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for April 27th, 2026. Call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented, please.
I'll move that, Mayor. That we
Motion on the
adopt.
table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And just for the record, Councillor Antonuc is unable to attend today, as well as Mr. Thibault is not able to attend. We have Mr. Rob Osmond filling in for our acting CEO and helping us out running today's meeting. So thank you, Rob. On to item 3, public hearings. Item 3.1, 1120-26, land use bylaw text amendment to light industrial. Just advising regarding that, calling that public hearing to order, and advising that members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against or for land use bylaw amendment 11-2026 will have a 5-minute time limit for speaking and must state their name for the record, and also must state if they're speaking for themselves or on behalf of any other group or organization. All right, bylaw amendment 11-2026, Mr. Osmond.
So we have Director Hilary Jensen to speak to that item.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jensen, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. For the public hearing today, as mentioned, we are going to be discussing Bylaw 11-2026, which is an amendment to a text amendment to the Light Industrial District or M1 district. So we did receive an application to amend the district to add a new use, to a new discretionary use to the bylaw, to that land use district being bottled gas sales and storage. And so when the Planning and Development Department reviews the proposed text amendment, we reviewed it, looked at, is this the appropriate place for this particular use? And we do not have any concerns with adding this particular use to the M1 district. It would be a low impact use, and any adverse effects would be contained within the building itself, which is in line with the intended purpose of the light industrial district. As the discretionary use, there is still some oversight within the Planning and Development Department. So any proposed use would be sent out to the adjacent landowners. They would be notified of the proposal and be allowed to provide feedback if they had any concerns with regards to that particular application. With the proposed amendment, we did send it out to Alberta Health Services, and as required under the Intermunicipal Development Plan, we sent it to the Municipal District of Taber for comment, and neither had any concerns with this particular amendment. The proposed bylaw was advertised in the April 15th and 22nd editions of the Taber Times. No comments or concerns were received at any point in time with regards to this particular amendment. So that concludes my very brief report for Council, and I will turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Just to confirm for the record that there's been no briefs submitted in writing for or against the change in this particular bylaw.
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Is anyone present wishing to speak against bylaw amendment 11-2026? For a second time, anyone wishing to speak on behalf of themselves for land use bylaw amendment 11-2026? Anyone present wishing to speak against bylaw amendment 11-2026, the third and final time? All right, seeing none. Anyone present wishing to speak for land use bylaw amendment 11-2026? Anyone present wishing to speak for land use bylaw amendment 11-2026, second time? Anyone present wishing to speak for land use bylaw amendment 11-2026, a third and final time? All right, seeing none. I'd ask for most to accept the information for input for the public hearing, please. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council accepts for information the input received at this public hearing for Land Use Bylaw Amendment 11-2026 for a text amendment to the Land Use Bylaw.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Hereby close the hearing. All right, moving on to item 4, adoption of the minutes. Item 4.1 minutes, regular meeting of council, April 13th, 2026. Mr. Osmond.
Administration has no further adjustments to the minutes.
Councillor Renfrew.
Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm ready to make that motion. Council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April 13th, 2026 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5, business arising, there are none. Item 6, bylaws. Item 6.1, bylaw 11, 2026. Mr. Osmond.
We'll invite Hillary back up to talk about this bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. There were no comments during the public hearing, and there were no comments as part of our advertising for this particular bylaw. The Planning and Development Department has no concerns and would recommend that Town Council approve both second and third reading of bylaw 11-2026.
All right, thank you. All right, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the motion that council approve second reading to bylaw 11, 2026 to amend land use bylaw 13, 2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approve third reading to bylaw 11-2026 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.2, bylaw 14, 2026, land use bylaw. Mr. Osmond.
Over to Hillary again.
All right, Hillary.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is first reading for bylaw 14-2026, which is to amend the land use bylaw to redesignate 5915 and 6001 50th Avenue from light industrial to medium industrial. This particular rezoning application would facilitate the future development in accordance with the medium industrial district. The applicant, as noted in your agenda package, has indicated that they wish to develop a bulk fuel storage and distribution facility on this property. These uses currently are not included in the light industrial district, and as such, administration did recommend this particular amendment to the applicant in order for them to move forward with this particular property. If council does decide provides first reading of the bylaw, we will, as administration, will proceed with advertising it in the Tabor Times, and in this case, we will also send it out to the adjacent landowners as they would be directly affected by this particular application, and administration would want to get any feedback, any concerns, or if they had saw this as an opportunity, we would like to hear all feedback from the public. So with that, I will turn it back to you.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, Councillor Weeb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question for my clarification on the application. It lists 6001 54th Avenue, but in the letter and the rest of the information is lists 6001 50th Avenue. So I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
Yes. The applicant did make a slight error on their application. They put 54th instead of 50th. I did clarify that it is on both parcels are on 50th Avenue.
All right, Councillor Sparks.
If there's no more questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right,
Make the motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 14-2026 to amend.
thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.3, bylaw 15, 2026, land use bylaw. Mr. Osmond.
Over to Hillary.
Hillary.
Thank you. This is first reading for bylaw 15-2026, which is proposing to rezone Civic Address 4301 55th Street, which is a property on the south side of Tabor, and it's from single dwelling district R1 to the residential comprehensive development district, which is R4. This would facilitate the future development of the parcel in accordance with the R4 district, which allows for multiple buildings to be on a property. The applicant, as noted in the application, has indicated they wish to develop 3 multi-unit residential buildings on the parcel. This is pretty much the same as what they have done further to the east on that same roadway. If the rezoning were successful, the applicant would still be required to submit their development permit applications to administration for review and approval. As mentioned on the last bylaw, if council provides first reading today, administration will proceed with the advertising of the application in the Tabor Times, and on the town's website in order to get feedback from the public. As this one will also be sent out to the landowners within the affected area, which is typically around 100 meters or so that they are aware of the application and have the opportunity to provide feedback at their discretion. With that, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, so I'm prepared to make that motion. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 15-2026 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.4, bylaw 16-2026 supplementary assessment bylaw. Mr. Osmond.
Thank you very much, Council. The supplementary assessment bylaw is passed annually. It is the bylaw that allows the municipality to levy a supplemental tax for properties that are completed and occupied within the year. So this is related to property taxes. Anything that is completed within the year obviously was not picked up in the assessment because that's compiled earlier. And so we need to have this bylaw in place for us to be able to levy taxes on them during the year. Later on, we'll see a bylaw where we establish the tax rates. This first bylaw simply allows us to levy taxes on those properties. It does have to be completed every year, and because it is tax related, and this section of the MGA is non-appealable bylaws, we are looking for all three bylaw readings this evening.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make the first motion. The council receives first reading to bylaw 16-2026, the supplementary assessment bylaw for the town of Tiber as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 16-2026, being the supplementary assessment bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
Okay, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Councillor Renfret.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm ready to make a motion that council unanimously agrees to proceed with third and final reading of bylaw 16-2026, being the supplementary assessment bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Weeb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 16-2026, being the supplementary assessment bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
All right, thank you. Just to confirm, Councillor Sparks, you were just trying to chime in? Okay, thank you. All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.5, amendment to approve 2026 operating budget. Mr. Osmond.
Thank you very much, Council. So before we proceed to a conversation about the property tax rate bylaw, I need to make Council aware that after the approval of the operating budget by Council at the last meeting, administration began to prepare the tax rate bylaw. During that process, we discovered that there was an adjustment that was missed in the tax rate estimations we used in our calculations. That estimate related to the growth portion of assessment increases in a value of approximately $530,000. Because of that, we need to consider a budget adjustment to adjust for that missed calculation. So I've prepared for council a possible budget adjustment. So essentially, at the time of approval, we were looking with the business case about land development surplus strategy. We were looking to address a tax subsidy of about $2.414 million. And we were going to do this with in chunks over the next 3 years, 800,000 in 2026, 800 in 2027, and the remaining in 2028. Overall, the operating budget as approved caused a property tax rate change we had estimated at a negative 0.61% So that's a decrease of 0.61. With this adjustment, we need to make, or the adjustment that I've proposed here for council brings us back to that point after adjusting for the calculation error. So what administration is proposing is that went through, and our original plan had been that no portion of the land sales should be included in the tax calculation because of the volatility of that revenue stream. What I looked at was I looked at the 10-year average of land sales for the town of Taber and discovered that the average land sales was about $860,000 a year over the last 10 years. And from that, I did take out the 2.5 million for the irrigation acres because I felt that transaction was a little too unique to include. So after we subtracted that, we still had an average of about 860. So I risked that down an additional 10% just to make sure that our estimations stay very conservative, and suggested that at least in the midterm, so kind of that 3 to 5 year range, I believe that it would be reasonable, given the fact that we've maintained this level of land sales over the last 10 years, that it would be reasonable to expect in the midterm we could continue a land sales of approximately $775,000. So if we make that assumption, that brings the total subsidy we're trying to address from 2.14 million to 1.365. And then if we develop the strategy I've outlined there, the orange side, the right side, we have 288 as the contribution in 2026, and then $538,500 in each of the following 2 years. This essentially gets us to the same place with regards to the land sales issue. It actually, in 2026, it actually gets us to a point that's a little more advanced. The big difference, though, is by building into the calculation an estimate of sustainable land sales, it reduces the amount of tax subsidy that we need to eliminate in 2026. And we use that difference between the 775 and the 288, approximately $530,000, to address the calculation error. At the end of the day, if we were to make this budget adjustment, the property tax rate change is a negative 0.61%, the same percent that was in the that would have been associated with the original budget approval. This was very important to administration because we felt council had a significant amount of debate on the budget, and we wanted to be respectful of council's decision to keep that number. So that's why that number was brought the same. And I will mention that the 2026 transfer of 280,000 is simply the number that allows that tax rate to be 0.61. So that's an outline of the change and what we're looking at. And of course, administration does apologize that we didn't have this caught earlier, but we did want to bring it to council's attention right away. And we fit it in here tonight before we talked about tax rates, because it's important that any budget adjustment is made before we finalize the tax rate for the year. That's what allows us to be able to make these types of adjustments. So council, I'm sure will have some questions, and I'm prepared to answer them.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councilor Reffert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess to Mr. Osmond, looking at, I guess, the 10 years, my only comment maybe would be that, I guess to council and to Mr. Osmond, is that, it isn't as volatile as I thought it was. You know what I mean? Over a 10-year period, it's taking 10% off, it's 775,000. So it looks like it's been the practice for roughly 10 years that's what administration and councils have been doing. So my only thought would be, do we even need to do the 288? Like I just, do we even need to do the 288? We were looking at 800 roughly every year was going into it. So I know that the idea is to, maybe the idea is to stay with it. It's not the 2.1 million that we did last year. That was in it, or in the operating budget. We just look at it like it's 800, like the practice has been over the last 10 years. And I was just looking at that option of not even, worrying about the remaining subsidy right now, because the 10-year average has been the practice. That would be my only thought, to see where property tax would be without the 288.
So the challenge there is that in general, we don't allow land sales revenue because of its volatility to be in place. And that's why in the original plan on how to deal with this, we didn't include a sustainable amount. Now, in this case, I do think that our history shows that at least in the medium term, we can support this. But I don't believe that we should get to the level of comfort where we believe that this is sustainable long term. Ultimately, we will have to deal with the sustainable budget amount as well, because in the long term, sustaining these levels of land sales is likely not practical, because land is limited. There's only so much that we own, and once it's sold, it's gone. So I think best practice is that we not have any. In this case, I'm proposing a mid-range plan that allows us to deal with a particular problem. But I think long-term, we do need to deal with the full value of the 2.14.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rufford.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to Mr. Osmond. Yeah, I see that. It's just that it's been a 10-year thing and a 10-year practice. And, one of the options administration did give us last meeting was to, we could have not put the $250,000 into the reserve plan, like at the 1% of the. Rob understands what I'm saying, right? We used that. So that's what I was just saying. Now that I see that we have we would still, if we lowered it to 288 back to zero, we would still be following the framework, and we would be, I don't know if we want to do, it just opens that door again to discuss that, putting all of that into 1 year is a high tax rate. I just wanted to put that out there. If anybody was wanting to discuss just making the, not using the 288, using the alternative and making it zero.
All right, thank you. Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so, Mr. Osmond, forgive me for this, but, it's been a lot of discussion, and so I need a reminder. So why do we have to subsidize 1.365 million for this current year and for future years?
So the way that the budget had been set up in the last couple of years was that the net proceeds of your land sales function was flowing in to fund expenses that should be funded by taxation.
Right.
And the challenge there is that the land sales revenue is fleeting. And so when you have those years that you don't have those land sales, because we won't be able to sustain the level that we saw in 2025 long term, what happens is that you get this immediate demand on your taxation. And so the goal here was to eliminate that portion of your tax funded expenses that were being funded by land sales. So that's what we're trying to eliminate there. And this particular solution brings lower numbers through the next 3 years.
Yeah. So can I ask, this is just a 3-year plan though? This isn't the 4th, 5th, and 6th year. Because after that, after 2028, we're going to have to come up with a new plan. Is that how I'm reading this?
So in this case, in 2029, we would have to develop a plan to deal with the 775,000. So what this would require is that each year we'll have to revet that estimated sustainable land sales budget is still reasonable, because if that shifts, then we've got to build a new plan. But at the end of these 3 years, you could then develop a plan to address the remaining 775, because long term,
Yeah.
you won't want to have any portion of your taxes funded by this particular.
Because we're taking 800 right now plus the 775
Uh,
to come up with what we're needing for taxes.
in the proposed, we're putting 775 into the budget,
Yeah.
and then we're making 288 the amount that we remove from the taxation.
Right, just for this year.
And then the next two are 538, as compared with the original plan, which was 88.
But again, the budgeted amount for land sales is 775, plus we're wanting to compensate it by the 538.50.
No, in 2026, by adding,
Not
Budgeted.
2026, I get the 2026, but the 2027, sorry to interrupt,
Okay.
but the
yeah.
2027 and 2028.
Yeah, so in 2027, 2028, we would still have the same sustainable budget, as long as when we review it, it still appears reasonable. And then you would have the 538. And those three contributions would eliminate that remaining
0.365.
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
My other screen shut off.
All right, thank you. Councilor Repert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I guess to Rob and to, I guess, the council. The upside of this is, I guess, if our land sales are 775,000 this year, we will, in a sense, put 288 into reserve. We have that option, right? Because that's what we subsidize out of taxes. But if we hit our 775 number, we're actually kind of going into that. If the next year we put 538,000 in the tax base to offset the 2.1, and we hit the 775, we'll be able to move. We have the option of moving 538 into reserves, and that going forward. So this does give us a lot of opportunity, if land sales stay good in the next 3 years, to move quite a bit of money into reserves. It's just, I'm saying over the last 10 years, do we do the 288 and the 250 when we're already working on the framework, now that I see that the 70-75 is a little bit more sustainable? That's all. That was the only option. It kind of gives us option B of what we had last meeting. However, it is a good savings plan if land sales stay good.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Sorensen?
Yeah, my only comment is that we're spending more money than we have. And so this isn't sustainable. This is a Band-Aid fix. And so my concerns are that we're spending more than what we're getting from our tax base. And so realistically, as council, do we raise taxes? Because this is the actual amount of money that we need, instead of coming up with this kind of proposed amendment. So those are my thoughts.
All right, thank you. And I guess for myself, it's always been the goal for councils to keep the tax level down as low as possible for our ratepayers. So to me, if we got a chance to give our taxpayers a break, our ratepayers a break, then it's incumbent on us to do that if we can. So I guess I see what you're saying about the land sale side, and although you could use that, as you said. But I see the water rates, that's $2.5 million that you said is an anomaly type of thing, but why not use some of that? If it's an extra that we weren't expecting, it came as an unexpected kind of revenue generator, right? And we ended up with more than we thought we were going to get in the end, actually. So to not use some of that I think is a mistake. And when we've got that option, and it's not talking the land sale side that you're warning against, right? We understand that side to be consistent, but this is an extra. And so why not use that extra to the benefit of our ratepayers?
So I think the caution that I would provide with council is that we know that long-term, this problem needs to be addressed, because if you ever suddenly had a year where you didn't have land sales performance, it could require a significant increase in taxation one time without any prep work. So that would be my caution for council, that if they were considering an option where, instead of the additional 288 this year, you've made that number 0, you could then split that into the other 2 years. So instead of 540, you would have 690 in each of the 2 years. The difficulty is that those bigger numbers are bigger pieces for council to tackle, and but I wouldn't recommend that you go beyond kind of this mid-range plan of 3 years to address this problem, because the longer out you go, the more likely you are to run across a year where your land sales won't support where you are right now. And that's why we've built this plan in, is because we know that we need a long range strategy that helps us address this problem. And that would be my big concern, is that lowering that in 2026 means a bigger bite in 2027 or 8, or a plan that stretches more years. And both of those, I think, present challenges in your rate setting in future years.
Yeah, Mr. Osmond, I'm not even suggesting using the whole 2.5 million. I'm talking about a portion, maybe the $500,000 or so out of that. That equates to about a 4.5% level, right? So we've just found that with the other method you're talking about, at the 530, 4.5%, which that was missed, that would have been close to 14% for a total tax increase, right? So when I look at the 9.4 that we've suggested here last meeting, that's literally double what the last council did as the highest, 4.5, 4.6 I believe it was, but so virtually double what we're talking this year for the end result for the average home at 9.48, right? So that's a huge difference, right? And I can't find anywhere in the province that I checked that's even close to the nines, right? It's 5, 6, 7s is not uncommon, but smaller centers, big centers, 9 plus is like that is just sky high. I have a real hard time supporting that, and the ratepayers are already talking about, anybody that's watching our live streams up on this and understanding that, but they're not understanding that side. And I also have some major trouble with that. And we, as an elected official, are responsible for our ratepayers, doing our due diligence, doing what's best for our ratepayers. And that's, to me, we have an opportunity to help that out in some capacity. And ideally, I believe we should be doing that. Councillor Firth.
Forgive me if I repeat a little bit of what Rob said, but I agree that this is a way to shift dependency away from land sales in a planned and gradual way, so that we don't have a huge problem when land sales drop off. We can't continue to depend on them. They are not sustainable. We know that. And I would disagree with your position that we're increasing taxes. We're actually decreasing the municipal tax rate by 0.61%, as is indicated in the table. And so we can't affect the way that assessments go up. And I think if we continue to try and subsidize partly provincial education tax, seniors housing, like by decreasing, we do a disservice to our ratepayers here, because if we want to look at addressing costs and service levels, then we need to do that in a strategic way. You can't just be slashing and cutting the last minute, or panicking when you're trying to set a tax rate. You need to have a plan. And I think that this is the most sustainable plan at the moment moving forward. So I would be in favor of this, and I'm prepared to make a motion if nobody else has any comments.
All right, thank you, Councilor Rufford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess to Council Personal Council, it's just that in the last meeting, we looked at doing 800, I think it was 800, 500. Now that we see such a sustainable, and I'm not saying, I understand getting away from it, right? And I understand the positive of the land sales. If it still happens, we're putting money into reserves, right? I just see, are we doing both with the 288 and the 250 in this year? I totally get the sustainability of land and the plan of getting away from it. I just see that, the numbers we were comfortable with last meeting, right, with, putting 800 in, and now that we see that 77.5, I was just looking at if council had an idea of, we did pass the rate, and it was successful last week, so I just see we get a little bit of different information. That's why I just was looking at the 288 as an option to I guess if land sales still went above 775, we could put that money into reserve too. So it's just the option that come up with the new information based on the sustainability of the last 10 years, right? I get the 2.1 that went in on the 1 year. That's not sustainable. But, and that's at a 10% rate cut or like a prediction cut.
All right, thank you, Councilor Sorensen.
Mr. Osmond, do you have your spreadsheet as to what that would look like if we added 250 and what the property tax rate change would look like? And while you're...
Yeah. Let me see if I can.
Is that what Councillor Remford's looking for? Is that what you're looking for?
Councilor Rufford.
I was just, in our last meeting, we budgeted $800,000 to address the land sales volatility, right? And we decided to do the 250,000 in the long-term, into our reserve saving policy. We were given option B from the administration to not put the 250 in, and address the sustainable land thing. But I just seeing that over a 10-year rate of 775, that's only 90% of it. I was just looking that, do we do both? So we would be able to adjust the 288. I'm not saying I'm just saying any number lowers the tax rate. If we went down 250 and we made it 38,000, that was just alternative 2 is a number where we can put anything into it. I just see the numbers. Us going that way is very similar to option B, which I think covered quite a few things last meeting. That's all. So it would be to make that 0 or any other number, right? I just wanted to discuss that 288.
All right, thank you, Councilor Firth.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Remford. I just want to clarify. So you're proposing not using that 288 at all and just having that at 0? I just want to understand what you're...
Yeah, so last meeting, we had the 2026 number of 800,000, right? And we had the estimate, on the other side, the sustainable budget of 0. Now that we see that it's 775, administration gave us the option last time of not putting the 250 into reserves, which had the rate lower. We decided to address both. Now seeing that number over 10 years at 90% is 775. We do have that option. Now, if land sales come in under 775, it is nice that we put 288 aside, right? It's giving us a chance that if 775 minus 288, if that's all land sales were, we would still be good in a way, right? We wouldn't put that 288, but if land sales are 775 up this year, we will be, I guess, in a sense, over budget in the right way, in an awesome way of 288,000, which we would then put into reserves. So then we would be getting a 250 and a 288. That's great to throw that into reserves. I'm just kind of saying if we make that zero, or any number lower, is very similar to option B that was at that administration gave us, that I felt they felt a little bit comfortable with. Us and the council decide to be more focused on the reserves. We are not taking the reserve 250 away. We are just we are sticking with a little bit of a volatile thing, but over 10 years at 90%, I just feel I just wanted that discussion.
But that doesn't address the fact that land sales are subsidizing taxation at all this year. So I think even though it's a significantly smaller amount than we had originally planned, I think I would still rather start moving in that direction and leave that 288,000 where it is.
Mr.
Yeah,
Osmond?
it was just, sorry.
Mr. Osmond?
Yeah, so that was going to be my clarification, is that the reduction from the 800 to the 288 is where we find the additional funds to deal with the calculation error. So if you talk about reducing that number to zero, taking an additional 288 out, in order for your 3-year plan to address the tax subsidy, you would need to increase the amount that you can contribute in 2027 and 2028, almost back up to 700 in each year, which was even higher than in 2028. So those two amounts become tax pressures in 27 and 28. Now, that being said, if council is interested in having me calculate what the tax would look like on those, I think that the only way that I'd be able to do that tonight would be if we had a short recess. Donna and I could go and run those calculations. Because again, what we were trying to present here was not to reopen the budget discussion that council had passed 2 weeks ago, but to deal with the adjustment for this miscalculation. If we want to get into that budget conversation, we'll need a bit of time to build those numbers. We want them right on the first shot.
All right, Councilor Redford?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and like I totally understand that, and I guess I maybe at the last meeting could have maybe asked for the 10 years, average or that. I have to imagine that if we'd had the last meeting and we were trying to put 530 in, it would have been very tough for us to put the reserve policy and the 530 and the 800. We probably wouldn't have done that, right? So we would have probably went with an option of maybe not putting the 250 or lowering the 800. So now getting that information, I just think now it was just to have that discussion I wanted to bring up, because I think that's where we would have maybe headed. And I just thought we should have a little bit of discussion on, if 775 is this year, which we're estimating, and it is next year, right? We will have the opportunity of putting 533,000 plus 288,000 into reserves. That's a great, that really, really works, and it gets us away from that, right? It's just. I just wanted to have that conversation now that we have an actual sustainable budget number that we are using, and administration is telling us to use it, right?
And if I could just clarify, I just want to make sure that we've got a good understanding. So the net result is that whatever number we are reducing the subsidy by becomes a contribution to reserve. But in order to have that contribution to reserve, it's a net tax impact. So if you elect to have a zero net impact this year, your net tax impact next year would be approximately $700,000. Tax impact. So yes, you'll get that money into reserve, but it will come out in the tax calculation. And that's the part I just want to make sure that we understand, that although you get it in reserve, you pay for it in taxation.
Yeah. Yes, yes, but it would be going into reserve, right? Yes. So, yeah, so it'd be that's why I was bringing it up, because we decided to do the 250 and use taxes to put into 250 like that we did, the reserve policy, which is great. We just now have we went from a 0 sustainable budget to a 775. I think it gives us an option to adjust that 288 more than 530.
And I just wanted to make sure that council understood that if we reduce it to 0 in 2026, but don't change the length of the plan, then you're clawing it back in 2027. So it's just changing the year at which point you add it to the taxation. And because we don't know all of the things that will affect the future, we don't know the types of pressure we'll have.
So I guess
Some of them, but not all.
So
of them.
if we kept the 288 and obviously we used the 775 and our land sales hit 775, we'd have increased taxes to get the 288. Yes, I get that. Yes.
Sorry, no. Your taxes are set now
Yeah.
based on the budget.
Yep.
Your actual land sales will determine how much money you
Yeah.
have available to put reserves, but you only get this one chance to set the taxes.
Yes.
So in terms of solving the subsidy issue, you can only do that with the tax rate.
Yes. So if we decide on the 288,000 in that, and the estimated sustainable budget hits 775, we will have generated that 288 will be there, but we'll have got it because we increased the tax rate.
Yes.
Yes.
And you will have reduced the subsidy.
And we'll have, and if it stays 775 the next year, right, and we use the 538, we'll have jumped taxes up to get that again. So I'm just saying now that we have a very stable, I'm not saying stable, it's a 10-year average at 90%. I just look at it that I don't know how much of I guess it's very proactive, this plan, right? To get away from it and put money into reserves if the numbers stay where the 10-year average is. It opens up the conversation of going something very similar to B last meeting, because we are still in this proposed amendment putting $250,000 into reserves based on an increased tax. So if land sales hit 775, we'll have upped taxes for the 250, and we'll get the subsidy back. I understand that that's to get away from that. However, if that happens, it will be because we increase taxes, right? So I'm just giving us an opportunity for council to look at, because I imagine if we would have had the 530 plus the 800 plus the 250, we would have never done that, because that would probably be roughly 5.3% or 5% plus. We'd be at 14. Administration would not have given us that example. So I'm just saying, does it give us a chance? Like, I would love to hit both numbers. Everybody agree, and we go it. And land sales are 775, and we have a great reserve pocket. It's really good for this town. But it's based on tax increase, right?
All right. Thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
I just want to state that this whole budget process has been the weirdest in the 5 years I've been on council. We've been passing interim budgets, we've been passing nothing set in stone, and then all of a sudden we're thrown as council trying to make the budget, trying to pass a tax rate which is fair to our taxpayers. And I hope that in the future, we learn from this and we really take time to do the budget correctly, or for lack of better words, but more mindfully, so that this doesn't happen in the future. And again, this is just a Band-Aid fix that we were going to have to deal with year after year after year. So we're not really resolving anything other than we're just, again, passing something so that we can carry on with our meeting and carry on with this year and go to our next operating budget. So I'm not sure what to do right now. Like, sounds like we're kind of off kilter. We have a bit of options that, I'm not sure if we have all the answers to. So I don't know if we should forward this to another meeting. I'm not sure if we can make a decision right now with the information we have right in front of us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Osmond. I think that's a fair statement, and it's I'm having some confusion issues with it also. And there's been a lot of things tossed around in the last several weeks as a result, and more so in this last 2 weeks, I guess, with this change in the what was found that was missed, unfortunately. But looking at the whole scheme of things here, there's a lot to this, and I think there's a lot more questions than there are answers, if that's fair, and that's a concern. So, from your perspective?
So if it is council's intention to basically open up the operating budget and re-deliberate on what the content should be, which, like, if we're talking about, something other than continuing with the negative 0.61% that was approved 2 weeks ago, then that's probably what council should do, is set aside some additional deliberation time, re-deliberate the budget. It does present some challenges in terms of timeline. Typically, we do try to have the tax rate bylaw in place by the end of April, because that allows us to produce tax notices and have them out with as much of that 2-month lead time to tax day as possible. But if council is looking to reopen the operating budget, then doing so by setting a deliberation meeting and digging into the budget is likely the best thing, because trying to reopen that operating debate in an item within the meeting tonight is likely too difficult. But yeah, no, I certainly understand the frustration. It was I recognized when we found the calculation error that it was going to be problematic, and so we did try to find a solution that would allow us to continue with the existing operating budget. But if council is prepared to re-examine the operating budget, then that should probably be scheduled at a different meeting.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
I disagree vehemently about deliberating any further on this. I think we got to a point after extensive discussion, and we've had extensive discussion again tonight about what we thought a reasonable tax rate was going to be. Making difficult decisions doesn't get easier the longer you wait. I find it often gets harder. The information is not going to change. So if we want to, play some kind of shell game where we move the money around and, adjust this and that, I think we had a lot of discussion. We came to a decision, and then now we have something that has thrown a wrench into things. But this still, I think, maintains the intention and, for the most part, the integrity of the budget that we had decided upon. And so I think we should move forward tonight.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rufford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to Councillor Firth's comment, yes, I agree. We should move forward with the budget. We've agreed to that, to the rates. The only change, though, is that administration has come with a $775,000 estimate over 10 years. It just, in my mind, made it a little bit more of a sustainable number than I had previously been brought up, right? So I was just, if administration was fine with bringing up that estimation, I just wanted to have the conversation about how do we look at that going into being part of fixing the subsidy, or the 2.1 million. It just opened up that we'd have the opportunity to, if we use the 775, we can kind of lower the 2026 by a certain amount. I mean, 288 is obviously the easiest one because then it makes it zero, but I was open to any discussion on that. That was just because we were getting both a sustainable budget of 775 and we were putting 250 into the framework based on the tax rate. So I just wanted to have that discussion. It did open up, I just wanted to discuss that item, right? So that item, just to me, like, I would like to see what that would lower it. However, if the motion is to go with the 288, I'm willing to deal with that too. It's just, I just give us an option that I thought we could discuss that number.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sparks.
Thank you, Mayor Prokop. I just wanted to make a statement that I totally support the recommendation that has been brought to us by administration. But I also appreciate the discussion that each one of us has had this evening concerning this amendment. But I do support administration. Yes, the numbers are different than what we discussed before. But administration has put us in a position that it's affecting our taxation and everything exactly like it did 2 weeks ago. Exactly. No change. And I think we need to be careful when we discuss taxes around this table that we don't use the number of 9.82 because that's not what the municipal tax is. It isn't. It's a minus 0.61. It is not an increase on the municipal side or what this council is putting forward. What we're putting forward is 0.61, a minus 0.61, and we need to be aware of that. We can't be throwing around these 9.8 numbers because that's not true. It is not true of what the municipal taxes are going to be. And with that, if there's no further discussion, I'm very prepared to make a motion on this issue.
All right, I do have two others looking to comment. Councillor Sorensen?
Yeah, just my comment is I don't appreciate the term shell game and moving money back and forth. I think that as council, we have to be very decisive in our decisions and take the information very seriously that's presented to us. And we have to reflect back that this has been 7 months in the making. And over 7 months, it's hard to juggle all the balls and remember what has been presented. And things have changed, and tonight has changed, and I think we should take it all to account.
Right, thank you. Councillor Wiebe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support what Councillor Firth has said, and I would support this motion. And I just would like to also ask our councillors to watch their wording because, as Councillor Sparks said, we are not increasing the property tax rate. What we can control, we are decreasing the tax rate by 0.61%. We cannot control the municipal property tax or the provincial school tax. We cannot control the provincial school tax or the seniors housing tax. We can only control the municipal property tax, which we are decreasing. So I would just caution my fellow councillors to be careful in your wording because you're saying that we're increasing taxes almost 10% and we are not.
All right, I guess just for me, I guess that's something that's been directed at me, and I guess it's, the end result is on an average home, it's 9.4 is the figure, the bottom right corner, correct, Mr. Osmond? We've talked about that, that's the part that we can control, correct?
So correction, the bottom corner is not all within council's control. It includes seniors housing, provincial tax, and assessment changes, all which are outside of council's control. The only number that council controls is the municipal property tax rates.
So maybe it's not you that said that, Mr. Osmond, maybe it was Mr. Tebow, I'm not sure, but that came out before, that was the number that's, we're looking at, right?
So the bottom number, the 9.46, is the total effect that a taxpayer will receive, but it is not all within council's control.
All right, Councillor Sparks?
If there's no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Very well.
make the motion that council approve the amendment to the 2026 approved operating budget adjusting OBC number 16 land development function surplus from 800,000 to 288,000 as presented.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.619, bylaw 19, 2026. Mr. Osmond.
Thank you very much. So this is the property tax rate bylaw. The bylaw that's drafted in front of council reflects the 0.61% decrease in taxation that was part of the approved operating budget and is now the same number reflected by the budget amendment council just made. This bylaw, because it is a tax rate bylaw, is a non-appealable bylaw, and so we do ask for 3 readings of this bylaw this evening.
Right. Thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. Someone prepared to make the motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make the first motion. I move that council gives first reading to bylaw 19-2026, being the 2026 property tax rate bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
Thank you. Councillor Rubio, you had a question? Okay. Thank you. All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, Councillor Wiebe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move that council gives second reading to bylaw 19-2026, being the 2026 property tax rate bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Firth?
Take a run at this one, although I don't think it'll pass. I move that council unanimously agrees to proceed with third and final reading to bylaw 19-2026, being the 2026 property tax rate bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. However, that's not carried, I guess, because it can't be carried. It has to be unanimous. Yeah, sorry. So that's defeated. All right, on to item 6.7, bylaw 2020-26, supplementary tax rate.
So the supplementary tax rate bylaw we can't set supplementary tax rates until
Right.
the tax rates are set.
So that has to just table. Don't need a motion for that.
So we'll bring that back when the property tax comes back.
All right, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't go into our meal break here, and we have a delegation, 2 delegates, right, at 5. So, council okay with that?
Well, if we could carry on, because
Oh, sorry.
plan on leaving. But it's up to you.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Sorry, what time did you have to leave?
I'd prefer to leave around 6:30.
Okay. Council's okay with carrying on until our delegation, meal break after our delegations? Okay, all right. Moving on to 7, action items, 7.1, proposed policy renewal, Mr. Osmond.
Director Chris Egan is here to speak to this item, right? Yeah, if you have any questions. So it is just a policy update.
Okay. Just, I guess, Mr. Egan, anything more from 2 weeks ago at all, or?
No, there are no changes to the
That is
policy.
cool, okay. Everybody's good with that then? Councilor Rumford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am ready to make the motion that council approves the traffic committee bylaw ADM-5 as presented.
Thank you.
What did I say, proposal? Policy ADM-5 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.2, proposed policy renewal radar speed gun. Mr. Osmond.
So this is another policy renewal with no changes.
All right. Counselor Weeb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the radar speed sign policy PS-PW-3 as presented.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3, flag protocol policy. Mr. Osmond.
So this is another policy for renewal. There is a small change in the policy. It's a title update for a reference inside the policy itself.
Just title up. Okay, all right. Any questions on that? Okay, Counselor Rumford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd make a motion that council accepts the flag protocol policy C-9 as presented.
All right, thank you. Counselor Firth, you were just trying to chime in. Okay, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.4, information for council. Mr. Osmond.
So in here, we do have the community center update. If council has additional questions, Chris is here to help us with those. In addition to the community center update, we did have some information about the Canadian Animal Task Force that was in Tabor at the end of March. Dealing with cat care and management project. We also have the capital projects status update that we've provided for council. Again, this is not the finance version. This is the actual project manager's report, as well as minutes from the traffic committee and the Tabor Municipal Police Commission for council's information. If there's any questions, their administration would be happy to.
All right.
council.
Counselor Firth, you had no question on that? Okay, great. Thank you. Counselor Rumford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question would be to Mr. Egan. He was mentioning that it would be close where the abatement was done and maybe they would look at more structural stuff, like if anything come up. Had that happened? Are we all good?
Yes, thank you. The engineers were on site last week and did their detailed inspections, and nothing of consequence was found.
Perfect. So you still look like it'll be August 1st, still a nice round number to go for?
Yep, we're still on track for August 1st.
Okay, great. Any other questions, Counselor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not a question, just a comment about the Tabor Municipal Police Commission highlights. In that meeting highlights, it talks about the 2025 crime analysis. I would encourage council and the public to take a look at that. It's interesting to see what the crime trends are, and also very reassuring to know that the likelihood of becoming a victim of violent crime in our community is just over 1%, which is extremely low. It's really reassuring for me that our community is a safe place, and that as we continue to grow, that we are maintaining that. So if anybody is interested, I believe it is posted on our website.
All right. Thank you, Counselor Rumford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going to Councilor First's comment about the crime, with this no tap after midnight, I haven't heard many people getting their vehicles broke into at night, so I'm glad everybody's on board, all the police working with, the 7-Elevens and places like that. It must be working because I hear less about that. I see less of it online about people saying, hey, look out, there's my vehicle was broke into. So that's been very positive, so I'm very happy with that.
All right. Thank you, Counselor Firth.
Further to that, Councillor Renford, that was an initiative that the Tabor Police Service came up with, and I think it's been very successful. It's to counteract fraud that was happening in the community, and that was definitely an important one, and I'm pretty proud that the Tabor Police Service was one of the first ones to come up with that.
Right. Thank you, Counselor Sorensen.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I believe that other communities are looking at that program and that the individual who came up with that is actually put forward for an award or some type of accommodation, so, yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions there? None whatsoever? Okay, and no motion required here? All right, moving on to item 7.5, operational highlights. Mr. Osmond.
So we have a full list of operational highlights for council. There was one report. We had attached the wrong one to the agenda, so there's a paper copy distributed for council. But if there's any questions, certainly attempt to answer them for you.
All right, thank you. I don't have my list here. Yeah, back to my pages. Can you? Yeah, that'll help. Sorry, I can't. I'm not on my page here.
Do you want me to just read through them, or can you see them?
Sure.
Sorry, I have them right
You have them? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I know. That's the problem with not having the numbers here. All right. That doesn't work. Okay, that's okay. So this is all. Okay. Yeah, okay. So where's our that's what I'm looking for, this list here, sorry. All right, on to engineer and public works report. Treatment facilities report. Economic development report. Administrative service reports. Fire department report. CEO report. Parks and Recreation report. Plan and development. And corporate services report. No questions whatsoever. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mayor, and perhaps Ms. Allred would be sharing this next month, but yeah, okay. Spoiler alert. We did win an award at the Economic Development Conference this year, so stay tuned.
All right, look forward to that. Great, thank you. Okay, on to mayor and council reports. Councillor Firth, can we start with you, please?
I attended all the meetings I was able to. I also attended the Play On tournament. I want to say thank you to the organizers, everybody that donated, the players, the volunteers that made it happen. It was super fun. I was very nervous about playing in the the council game, but I didn't fall down. I didn't score any goals either, though. But it was an amazing event, and I've heard nothing but positive feedback from the community. So thank you to everybody from administration that helped plan, and it was so great. I also attended a meeting with the Police Review Commission team. They came to meet with the Taber Municipal Police Commission, so we got to meet with them and answer some questions. They are the new provincial body that is taking over police complaints. So the Taber Police Commission no longer has a public complaints director. So this is the team that's beginning the implementation for that body. And we had a good meeting with them. I also attended the Craft Hockey Bill Watch Party. I wanted to say congratulations to the runner-up Tumbler Ridge. It was a great competition, and I wish we both could have won. I want to say thanks to all the voters and supporters of that as well. The event was amazing, and I'm so excited to see how that moves forward. I did an interview with 660 News the next day about our win, and so I expressed all of those same things on the radio. I attended a strategic planning session as well with the rest of council and senior administration team, and along with Councillor Sorensen, attended the Southeast Area Structure Plan open house this past week. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And even though I couldn't attend the hockey event, I was voting previously from my destination, so all votes counted. I also attended the South Area Structure Plan, which was just this past week. And I just wanted to mention that residents have until May 8th to complete their survey to share their input. So my biggest thing would be that I attended the Economic Development Conference in Kananaskis last week. The biggest takeaways are other countries are looking at Canada for investment as they see us as a safe, reliable, and sustainable supplier. Industries for potential investment and development are food, biofuel, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and the main topic was defense. So Tabor is in a great location in relation to having highway access to Highway 36 and Highway 3. We're highlighted for being in the ag corridor, and we have good access to water and electricity. The takeaways is council to ensure our community is investment ready, coordinated team approach when meeting with potential investors. Have we answered the questions why here and why now for potential investors? Having a timeline for approvals, sites zoned and water ready. And are we supporting existing businesses for potential growth? There is a big push for tourism, and so I hope that our farm to table, Tabor's Table continues to grow. And just that we take advantage of our assets, green spaces, vacant or underutilized buildings. And then there was a shout out of whether we need a policy for if a data center ever was to come to Tabor, because you don't want to struggle with that if that was something. And that's my report.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sparks.
Yes. Of course, I attended the community auction on behalf of the town of Tabor, the Highway 3 AGM, Rec Board, and all other meetings and training that I was required to attend. I've also had some very fun and informative personal meetings with residents over the last little while. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun talking with the people out there, and as they voice their concerns and positive things for members of council. And other than that, that's all I have to report.
All right, thank you. Counselor Emperor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the meetings I was able to attend. I attended the Craft Hockeyville and the Play On. They were tons of fun. I had lots of fun. It was a great event, and it'll be exciting to see what the future. Maybe we get an NHL game here, and it was awesome. Thanks, Tabor.
All right, thank you. Counselor Weeb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended every meeting I was able to attend. I also participated in several community events and planning sessions. The community input workshop for the recreation feasibility study, the council sport feasibility study, along with the rest of council, the strategic planning workshop. I participated in the Play On tournament, and I don't think I have anything to add besides what Councillor Vern already covered up. Except that I'm very happy I will not be asked to be on any more hockey teams based on my skills and abilities. I attended the Tabor Cowboy Poetry and Western Music Roundup and the Craft Hockeyville broadcast party. I also attended the Kids Only Market at the Tabor Public Library and volunteered at the Roadhammers concert. And I would like to make council members aware, if you want to add it to your calendar, the Tabor Community Action and Prevention Society, also known as TCAPS, will be having their fall social on Saturday, October 17th. Tickets are $75 each if you wish to attend.
All right, thank you. For myself, variety of meetings and document signing requirements. I did also attend the council input workshop. I attended the Play On Hockey tournament as well. Had a lot of fun with that. That was very well done and very well received. Great for Tabor all the way around. I did also attend the Craft Hockeyville party announcement. And that was pretty exciting all the way around. Thanks so much for all involved and everybody that put that on, and all the participants, supporters, and the donations that have come in. I attended the Roadhammers concert as well and volunteered there. Also did several interviews as a result of the Hockeyville announcement. I also attended the Cowboy Poetry and Song event, attended the Sewa AGM Coaldale meeting, also attended the Tim Hortons Smile Cookie promo with Reeve Tamaramenaga and Joel Mills. I attended the Town of Tabor Strategic Planning event, as well as the Highway 321 Association AGM. And just this morning, participated and attended the Smile Cookie Kickoff event with FCS at the Tim Hortons location for the fundraising for programming. So that's running this from today all the way through May 3rd, so do support that and volunteer if you have some time to do so also. A lot of fun besides and great cause. So that would be my report. All right. Item 7.7, notice of motion, no notice of motion or standing items. Mr. Osmond?
I will mention that after our last meeting, there was a request that we add a tracking sheet. So the tracking sheet's been included. So the items you'll see on that sheet are the ones that have not been resolved. Once they're resolved, we remove them from the sheet.
Okay,
So,
great, thank you. All right. And next would be our delegation set for 5 o'clock. We have both delegations here, correct? So we're okay starting a little bit early? If they're both here, both in attendance, all right. Go with item 8.1, RCL branch number 20, funding letter support requests. Mr. Osmond. Good afternoon.
The Legion is committed to constructing. It was on.
It was on, yeah.
The Legion is committed to constructing a unisex, fully accessible washroom to improve accessibility within a Legion facility. This important upgrade will ensure that all community members, including individuals with mobility challenges, seniors, veterans, and families, can safely and comfortably use the facilities while attending Legion and community-hosted events and services. The Legion is seeking a commitment of $5,000 to help the Legion reach its 50% contribution as it applies for a provincial grant under the Community Facility Enhancement Program Small Funding Stream.
All right,
Any questions?
thank you. Questions arising, Mr. Singleton? None whatsoever? Oh, Councilor First, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Mr. Singleton. So there is no accessible, handicapped accessible washroom on property at the Legion currently?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a concern. Well, Councilor Sparks,
If there's no other questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
very well.
Make the motion that council support the funding request from the RCL branch number 20 in the amount of $5,000 from the discretionary fund.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Sorensen.
Yeah, there's just a little bit about authorizes the mayor to sign the letter of support. Do you want to add that? I know we've already done that. I'll make a motion that the mayor, that council authorizes the mayor to sign the letter of support also for this project.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.2, Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation Cardiac Campaign Delegation. Mr. Osmond.
And council, good evening and thanks so much for having me today. If you could just go to the first slide, please. We appreciate the opportunity to present to the town of Tabor today. We're here to share an update on the Bringing Hearts Home campaign, what it means for your community, and how we continue moving this forward together. Perfect. I can just, do you want me to click? Sure. That's great. So we're here today to present an update. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. We're good.
What it means for your community and how we continue to move this forward together. So my name is Crystal Elliott, and I'm the CEO of the Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation. I'm joined here today by individuals in the community who are here to support us. I'm not here to introduce an idea, I'm here to share momentum. So together with communities across Southern Alberta, we've now raised $28.5 million towards this vision. It tells us something super important. It tells us that this region believes in what we're building, and now our focus is shifting. We're no longer raising dollars, we're rallying voices. Heart disease is the #2 cause of death in Canada, but here in Southern Alberta, it is the #1 cause of death. And what's important to understand about that is that it's not just about acute events, it's about underlying risk. So Southern Alberta has one of the highest cardiovascular risk profiles in the province, and that's driven by things like hypertension, obesity, physical inactivity, and access barriers to early screening. In our region, cardiac death rates are significantly higher. If you live here, you have a 30% higher chance of dying than the rest of Alberta. That is not okay. We also know that if you live in Southern Alberta, you have a 15.5% higher chance of having a heart attack. That is also not okay. So then with all of those risk factors, we layer on access. So patients currently are traveling up to 3.5 hours to access care when the clinical standard is actually 90 minutes. So we have higher risk, higher mortality, longer delays, and this combination is exactly why the work that we're doing matters. This is not a people problem, it's a system gap. So right now, Southern Alberta does not have comprehensive cardiac services programs that meet the needs of the growing population. Patients currently have to leave our region for interventional procedures, for advanced diagnostics, and for critical cardiac treatment. Every time that happens, care is delayed, risks increase, and outcomes are impacted. So what we're trying to solve with this campaign is not just about access. We're trying to solve a structural gap in the healthcare system. So before we go any further, I just want to bring this into focus. Because of everything that we've talked about today, the statistics, the distance, and what this is what it looks like in real life. In Southern Alberta, people often travel hours for cardiac care. Not once, but over and over again for every single appointment. And when every second matters, the distance becomes the difference. I'm going to show you a video that's going to capture that reality.
Aren't there yet? Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Not right now, sweetie.
When we get there, let me see Dad.
I hope so.
All right, back on the chest.
Take compressions.
Okay.
Looking good. Compressions are good.
Okay, 2, 1, switch.
On you. What's our ETA?
We still got about an hour.
We analyze?
Yep, we're analyzing.
Okay, I'm cleared.
All right, shock delivered, back on the chest.
Okay, resuming compressions.
So what you just saw is the reality for thousands of people in our region. Each year, more than 1,300 people in southern Alberta have to travel that road to leave the region for cardiac care. There and back, over and over again, at a time when really they should be focused on healing. And in critical moments like that, that distance introduces risk. So it's not just inconvenient, it's just not sustainable, and it's not acceptable. So we know the solution, and now we have the opportunity to change it. Oops, sorry. So the solution. So the Southern Alberta Cardiac Centre of Excellence is not just a building. It is a comprehensive cardiac care system. It includes advanced cardiac diagnostics, interventional cardiology, including catheterization labs and electrophysiology. It includes an expanded ICU and critical care capacity in both Medicine Hat and Lethbridge. It includes CT and MRI imaging. It includes heart function clinics and long-term monitoring. It's about delivering the full continuum of care, right from diagnosis to treatment and recovery. It's designed to be integrated across the region, multidisciplinary, and built for future demand. This is not a short-term fix, it's a generational healthcare solution. So what's important to understand is this, that the work is no longer theoretical, it's now supported at the highest levels. In the 2026 Alberta budget, the Government of Alberta committed $59 million over the next 3 years towards advancing cardiac care and critical care capacity in Southern Alberta for a total project of $445 million. This includes the development of a cardiac catheterization lab right in Chinook Regional Hospital in Lethbridge, and it includes expanded ICU capacity in both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. It's significant because it signals that the government recognizes the gap, they recognize the need, and they recognize the importance of building cardiac care right here in our region. It's not the full solution. It's important to be clear that this is a critical step forward, and it does build directly on the work that's already been done. So we've done the needs assessment, we've done the functional planning, and the momentum created by this community in raising $28.5 million is now we're seeing alignment. So the government is stepping forward, clinical teams are ready, and the community, through that $28.5 million in philanthropy, we are leading. And this is why advocacy matters. At this stage, it's not just about starting the conversation. It's about ensuring that this remains a priority going forward. It's about ensuring that this continues to move forward. And we know that it's going to be delivered at the scale that our region truly needs. So what this delivers is not just treatment. It also enables prevention. Because we know something really powerful, it's that up to 90% of heart disease risk is linked to modifiable factors, things that we can actually influence. So through initiatives like the Southern Alberta Prevents, which is part of this project, we're also working to identify risk earlier, empower people to know their numbers, and intervene before a crisis happens. So now this becomes a complete model. So, at this stage, this is why I'm here today. So we're no longer simply just asking for donations. We're asking for your leadership. We're asking for your advocacy. And because now what we have in front of us is real. The plan is in place. The system is designed with $28.5 million. It's already in motion. And now the question becomes, how do we ensure that this is fully realized? So one of the ways that we're inviting municipalities to participate is through a per capita contribution model. We're asking you to consider an investment of $5 to $10 per resident. It's a simple approach, but it's a powerful one because it creates a shared sense of ownership. It ensures that every community is part of building something that every resident will rely on at some point in their lives, unfortunately. Individually, it's a modest contribution, but collectively it becomes transformational. And more than that, it sends a message. It sends a message to the Government of Alberta that the municipalities and your community, our community, believes in access to care. It shows that you believe families should stay close to home and that you're willing to stand behind a solution that's already underway. There is still opportunity to give, but more importantly, there is an opportunity to lead, to be part of ensuring that this project continues to move forward, remains a priority, and becomes a reality for every person in Southern Alberta. This impacts everyone. Unfortunately, not equally. We know that rural communities, Indigenous populations, and those with limited access to primary care face higher cardiovascular risk and poorer outcomes. So it's not just about access, it's about equity and health outcomes. It's about ensuring that where you live does not determine whether you live or not. We believe in recognizing the generosity of all of our municipalities that make this possible, and all of the donors that we work with who have stepped up to stand beside and walk alongside us. So if you choose to support both in advocacy with our Alberta government and or financially, your support will be honored with care and gratitude. What we're building is not just a cardiac center, we're building a system. One that treats patients faster, identifies risk earlier, prevents disease where possible, and keeps families together. We have the plan, we have the momentum, and we have the belief of our communities, 28.5 million strong. Now we need you to help ensure that it's fully realized, because this is more than about today. It's about changing the future in healthcare in Southern Alberta. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present to you today. I hope that out of all of it, that you'll take this and speak with one of your friends or family about this project that's going on in Southern Alberta.
All right, thank you so much, Crystal, for your presentation. Appreciate that very much. Any questions for Crystal whatsoever? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Ms. Elliott. So the donation you were talking about, the per capita, is that a one-time donation that you're asking for?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We're trying to we're doing we're calling a municipal roadshow, and we are trying to gain 100% support across all of the communities in Southwest Alberta.
I'm so happy to see this. It's definitely needed in our area, and it's really exciting to see how far along on the timeline we are. So let's get it to the end.
Right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Rufford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a great presentation. So the plan is to raise enough money and get on this. So I think, being half an hour away from the hospital that would be built in Lethbridge, right? How we would not be on support. So I just kind of want to talk to you guys. At $5 a person, is that what is our, I guess, Mr. Osmond, would you know our STARS donation? What do we do? That's $2 every year, I think, right? So this would only be a one-time.
I'm not sure of the number, but
So it was we usually do $2 to STARS every year. Is that what we are? Yeah. I think it's something like that.
I thought it was $1 maybe.
$1?
Because we also have the other auction.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The other community event. So I thought that we started at $1 per
That
capita.
sounds right, yeah.
But I guess if I can continue, I really think that this project is needed in our community, and Lethbridge is a very small commute for us compared to Calgary, and especially to see our loved ones and go for appointments. And so any way we can support this, not just monetarily, but like you said, to advocate for it and just more awareness, definitely I'll be doing that for you.
When you say advocating also, Crystal, would you like a letter of some sort? Is that kind of what some of the format has been for your project?
We're certainly encouraging letters to your MLAs to say that the municipality is in support of this project and that we want to see it move forward.
Okay,
The
great.
government has committed, and we're very pleased with that commitment. Respectfully, we need to continue to advocate with the government of Alberta to ensure that it comes to fruition.
Right, right. Is there any end date in sight as far as completion for that just yet, or no?
So the goal right now in the budget starting to
Okay.
be built. However, the project itself has already started. We're starting to fund different pieces of the project. So for example, one of the first things that we're looking at is stress testing and some of the diagnostics that are going to occur that we can do without the big capital infrastructure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Sorensen?
I think this will just need further council discussion, so I'd just like to make a motion that I thank you for the Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation for your presentation and accept the presentation for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm on my way to Picture Butte.
Okay, great. Good luck. Thank you.
Can I also
Sure, you bet. Go ahead.
make a motion for the mayor to write a letter of support for this project and authorize the mayor to sign this letter?
All right, thank you. Motion on the table? All in favor? Carried unanimously also. Thank you. All right, Mr. Osmond, no media inquiries, I take it?
None.
Thank you. Okay, then, as per our discussion, move into our meal break and come on back into closed session. Have that motion, somebody make that motion, Councilor Sorensen? Right, motion on the table, all in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you.